In 1947, the Mont Pelerin Society was created, which founded neoliberalism. And its aim was to undermine Keynesian economics and the cohesion in society where the state could do good things on behalf of people. It is the philosophy of the Conservative Party to its core. It is the philosophy of most Liberal Democrats who subscribe to the Orange Book. It's been a philosophy of a quite large number of members of the Labour Party.
It's a body of theory that has theoretical inconsistencies, has no real evidence base, yet it dominates because of the use of the language and the metaphors that buttress it and support it. We're told that the national government who issues the currency is like a big household. Well, no, it's not. All us households, we have financial constraints. We either, to spend, we've got to get an income, we have to save and spend from foregone consumption, or we have to borrow money. Well, the national government doesn't have to do that, ever. It issues the currency, stupid.
There isn't a magic money tree that we can shake that suddenly provides for everything that people want.
The state has no source of money other than the money people earn themselves.
There it is. Dear Chief Secretary, I'm afraid there is no money.
How can the British government that issues the pound run out of pounds? A national government that issues its own currency can never run out of money. Ever, ever.
Hello, I'm Kojak Lore from Swedish Television. I'm wondering, can the ECB ever run out of money?
Well, technically no. We cannot run out of money.
There's nothing to prevent the federal government from creating as much money as it wants and paying it to somebody.
There is no shortage of money in this country, I promise you.
Every day you'll see the highest politicians in all of our countries using these metaphors, and they have a strict intent to undermine the confidence that we might have and the trust we might have in governments that seek to challenge the so-called self-regulating private market.
The money needs to come from somewhere. You know, there's no such thing as sort of free stuff.
But if we're really going to stand up to them, we've got to be strong enough and credible enough to do it, not just pretend that money will come out of thin air.
It's so damaging for a so-called progressive politician to get up and say, well, I'm going to cut the deficit too and balance it. Why the hell would you want to balance the fiscal deficit? Who said that was a good idea?
Let me remind the right honourable gentleman of what happens when you don't deal with the deficit.
Sorry, it was a mistake. We shouldn't have allowed the deficit to get that high.
Well, I said to this gentleman here, spending's got to fall, and that's why we will reduce spending. All right?
They're just aping the language of the neoliberals because they think that that's what the population thinks is fiscal responsibility. But this is a population that has been poisoned by these ridiculous metaphors to construe something in a way that's totally erroneous and has no application to evidence or reality, but serves an ideological agenda of a very small proportion of our population and undermines the prosperity of the majority.
A study has linked the Tories' cuts to health and social care spending to the deaths of 120,000 people.
People are dying here, and nobody cares.
Today, austerity, sadly, and suicide go hand in hand in Greece. A study out directly links most suicides in 2009 and 2010 to the budget cuts there.
It's degrading. It's, especially when you've worked all your life.
You often hear, oh, the government's got to save. Well, what nonsense is it that a currency issuing government would save? This is what students are getting taught all the time in economics courses, by the way. They're getting indoctrinated into this nonsense all the time. A national government that issues its own currency can have whatever consumption possibilities it wants at any time now or in the future. It can buy whatever it wants that's for sale in its own currency, irrespective of what it's done in the past. And our own personal budget experience trying to deal with our credit cards and the rest of it has no application to a national government. It's totally irrelevant to the capacities and the opportunities that a national government has. I consider that modern monetary theory is a very elegant body of intellectual thought. It's internally consistent, it's evidence-based, it's got an impeccable record of prediction, if you like.
all MMT is doing is describing the real world. Now, neoclassical theory is telling you about a fantasy planet.
The way of doing economics that brings us into the 21st century, that recognizes the simple fact that we're not on a gold standard anymore, and we aren't taking advantage of a whole range of policy options that we can adopt now that weren't really available to us before.
We have capacity as human beings through our cognitive processes and our understanding and use of language. We have the capacity to change the way we view something if we're confronted with a different set of metaphors and a different language. We can construe the same event that we thought about in one way today in quite a different way tomorrow.
The note comes first, the tax bill comes second. When you pay tax, you do this. Isn't that shocking?
The world as a whole is a closed system. Every financial payment comes from somewhere and it goes somewhere.
There is no reason for austerity. None whatsoever.
Got that? Again, this is simple for central bankers now.